Warning. Throughout the entirety of this podcast, Mike sweat his absolute dick off until it completely drenched his sweatshirt. Some viewers may find this content highly disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
You ready? You never know.
Everyone loves to have an opinion about somebody else instead of obviously figuring out their own shit.
Right.
It's easier to do too, like somebody who's fallen from the graces.
100%.
Because also their boy or their buddy might have really liked him. And since he failed, it's almost like they have another way to project their baggage on even just a buddy, not even Johnny.
It's interesting for me when I started getting on the spiritual vibe and then, being somewhat of a public figure, obviously just understanding the dynamic of having a bunch of people watching, or at least it feels that way. Like you have eyes on you and
Right.
And Johnny's 100x of that. At one point, he was, almost A-list famous, I would argue.
Oh, yeah.
And it really has been interesting for me to it was a breakthrough for me, perspective-wise, when I just kind of zoomed out of the situation. I was just like, man, why does it impact their life whatsoever if Johnny Manziel doesn't want to use his God-given ability? Why the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Even what you said on the bus, because I liked your question. You're like, yo, what do you say for a guy like me who's hustled and I didn't have this God's given, I had to fucking hustle to get here and just make a roster. I would die for the opportunities you got, right?
Right.
But there's ego in that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's your ego.
Yes.
What the fuck does your ability have to do with his?
Right.
What the fuck does his decision making have to do with anyone else's?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's for me, I realized, dude, I do it all the time. I had so much ego in every outlook of every situation. Everyone wants to take ownership or have some stake in everything. Man, Cleveland Brown, the Browns are my team. You fucked up. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? That's my outlook on it. It's just Johnny literally was I've been around him for a long time. He was in a dark place. At one point, I was just not a guy you could say, hey, Johnny, put the fucking drinks down, bro. And he'll be like, all right, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking Tom Brady could
Appreciate you for looking
Tom Brady
out.
would be there and he'd fucking turn around and do a chug bud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was scary for a while, but I always knew his heart and how much of a nice, I knew I feel like I have a pretty good gauge on that, just if you're a nice person. And he always was, no matter what. He could be fucked up. He used to do hard shit. He was fucking rocking for a while in LA. But bro, if I needed to pull him this, he'd have a heart to heart. He could have a heart to heart and say really meaningful, impactful stuff. It was never above any of that. You know what I mean? Always had those qualities, you know? But to your point of just and back to that overall point, there's just once we talked about the ego a bit on the bus, and it's just once you identify how much ego is driving everybody's outlook on everything, really, that overall outlook on Johnny is just man, all right, if you're good, say my dad was Roger Federer, right? And
all right.
He's just an amazing tennis player, and I had these God-given, I grew up around tennis. It was just everything. I was just God-given ability. I was the next one. So, am I indebted? I have to play tennis. If I don't want to get out of bed and go fucking practice and be the best tennis player, then why the fuck should I? You know what I mean? That's my outlook on it. It's just if overall, with our time on earth, doesn't matter what your gifts are, your skills are, it's about doing what you love, man. It really is. And that's how you have true happiness. It's not about, there's guys who are amazing businessmen, and they're like, yo, I gotta run these businesses. And they end up missing all this time with their family, and they go on and have these storied careers. But then at the end of it all, you know what I mean? None of that's really gonna matter.
Right. Just the ego in general, but everybody has that.
Everyone has it.
You know what I mean? It's
Everyone
it's
has it.
us growing up. You were probably the same way.
I
would
was.
assume before you find kind of this enlightenment, you sit back and you're the same jock growing up, really good at your sport, and you talk about having a son and you want him to be just like you.
100%.
Because it's your ego.
Yeah.
So if you never get out of that and you become the Roger Federer of your story, or
Right.
if I have my son and I want him to be like his old man,
Will Compton Jr.
like this is what I was about. This is what you're gonna be about. Made him play football all the
Right.
time. Like this, you got it in you. It's somewhere in you. You're just not tapping into it.
Right.
That's like me projecting my ego onto him.
Bingo.
And then whenever he's like, the person you explained that doesn't want to get up, like it's just not in me to do it.
Right.
That's where the resentment kind of happens between like the whole father-son. That's where a lot of this shit happens, man. It is.
100%. And dude, most of his depression, like he was very depressed for a while, like bad.
Yeah.
And
you can only imagine.
Yeah.
Like we weren't 100x of whatever we are.
Right.
And he was, like he said, in the same breath.
Yeah.
Like he was a gift, bro. He was Money Manziel.
100%.
Like you turned it on, you wanted to see some magic.
Yeah, and a lot of that depression though, and I said it to him on the bus, he was talking about a situation. I was like, Johnny, you had to forgive yourself. Like the depression was the shame of like, he believed what everyone else thought too. He was like, oh man, I fucked this up. I had all these gifts and I threw them away, And there's validity to that, right? There's validity to that. Like you can make that argument and there's obviously tons of actions of his that are regrettable, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, dude, what is it about at the end of the day? It's really like his breakthrough was just like he had the realization, and a lot of it was through our conversations. Just like, dude, who gives a fuck if you don't want to play football anymore? A cool comparison is like, we just had this conversation on one of the episodes going to come out soon. Just like right now, as his friend, I'm watching him. We could party and we still have wild nights. He's not nearly as wild as he used to be, but the guy's he's the Heisman of partying too.
Yeah.
God's given, like he could just do it. You know what I mean? And he's good at it.
Right.
Doesn't miss a tea time.
Right.
They had to go fucking, the Cleveland Browns fucking assistant coach had to go scoop him out of bed, Texas A&M, throw him in the back of the pickup truck and drive him over to fucking walkthroughs because he was blasted. Couldn't get out of bed. But he doesn't miss a tea time.
Right. But you can still, like, even looking back on it, like, even as Johnny, you can still, at that moment in time, I did want to play, but I loved the other stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
But you can still kind of love, like, you can still love ball.
100%.
And still, at that moment, in those moments, have that regret. Like, looking back, like, yeah, of course I would do better stuff, just because there were other people involved.
Right.
And when it ultimately changes, you can't carry that same regret because it's like,
exactly.
Who cares at the end of the day,
exactly.
bro?
No,
you did care at one point in time, and it's all good that you did.
100%.
But you got to have self-compassion enough to realize, like, it's behind you now.
Exactly.
Like, you can't continue to carry that baggage with you.
Self-compassion is really what it's about, and that's what it was for him.
Yeah.
It was just forgiving him. It was, and also just a perspective shift on it. I was just like, dude, do you want to be Russell Wilson right now? Reverse lives. Just wake up every day, you get fucking right over there, and you start studying. And you're fucking telling everyone you know every goddamn play. And you're like, yeah, every interview, yes, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you want to be that? Do you on your day-to-day schedule in your life, the way you're leading your life, are you happy? Like, what are the things that get your rocks off? I always say get your rocks off because that's what it's about to me.
Right.
It's like, yo, what gives me a rise? And I follow that rise. Something gives me a rise, I'm fucking walking towards it.
Yeah.
And for him, it's just like, that would be leading a lie. If he was Russell Wilson, his inner soul, his inner being, he's a good old boy. He wants, bro, I see his eyes light up.
Yeah, he talked about playing darts.
Yeah,
beer pong and shit.
He's like one of those dudes. He's just a legend. He just is what he is. You know what I mean? Like, he had that era. Awesome. Be proud of it. Why can't the entire community just be like, you were one of the best to ever do that?
Yeah.
You didn't want to play anymore. You got into partying. That cool. Share the story. And that's why I did Ball Don't Lie with him, and why we would have these exact talks. And I'd just be like, bro, people have to hear, because I watched his perspective shift where he started to forgive himself. He started to let it go and just be like, you know what, you're right, man. Like, I actually am happy doing this. Like, and he really likes golfing. He's actually really good.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
We were talking about, he's like gonna go after it a little bit more. Like he's wants to party a little bit less and go after a little bit more because everyone wants to play with Johnny. He's starting to get invited to tournaments and that type of thing. I don't know if he's gonna be a fucking pro, but how funny would the Johnny Manziel Happy Gilmore? He's Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and it's like, you never know. Like, you could, and this is the
You
name
Never
of the
Know
pod. Hey,
podcast.
it's like, maybe he becomes really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he's a
You just
freak
don't know.
He's a freak athlete. Like, he has that special sauce.
Right.
That's what it is. Either way, like, I'm just in it. I feel like I'm literally a vessel in his life. He said it to me multiple times. Like, I'm just gonna help him figure it out and like work through it. Like, I brought him. We've done so many cool little money things and like have really worked. Like, when he wanted to make a comeback. Like, when was that? I think like 27, late 2017, 2018.
When he was going through the CFL?
Yeah, like before the CFL and like the Patriots were interested in him, he was starting to do workouts. His old quarterback coach is out in LA. They're working. He was working every day, like 2 days. And his face was brighter. He was, you know, I was a neighbor of his. He would come by and he's like, yo, I think I'm gonna make a push. Like, my body feels good and my mind, I'm not really like depressed. Like, I feel like I can make a run, you know? So then we branded it Comeback Season. In my house in LA, in 48 hours, we sold $1.2 million worth of hoodies.
Just from Comeback Season.
Like, it was.
Yeah, that is nuts, man. That is fucking crazy.
Fucking Gildan hoodies. 1.2.
Hey,
these guys were packaging fucking hoodies. My shit was a trap house. There was literally fucking semi trucks getting filled up to send these fucking hoodies out of the garage. And that's when I was just like, I had the conversation with him. I was like, do you realize how special that is? You've, like, all these people, you think everyone hates you. You've been depressed.
Like, people who do root for you.
Yeah.
It's not like I root for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I root for you.
I'll sit back. I'll be like, oh, that's dope. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I fuck with what he's doing right there. Hit the like button, right? Let's just play social media game.
Yeah.
And I root for you, but I don't sit there like the person who's rooting for you isn't going in your comments.
Exactly.
Might say something like, let's fucking go, fire emoji, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But you're not scrolling and seeing all the hate. Like, you're not taking some energy. It takes more energy to hate.
Oh, yeah.
It takes less energy to sit back. I'm stoked that he's doing that.
Right.
And you might just keep on scrolling. But the people who hate you, they're just the loudest because they're wanting to take whatever's going on with them and put it into a comment, into things where you think the world hates you. And just knowing that, where you're like, hey, do you realize how big this is? Like, you sell 1.2 million in hoodies. Like, you think the world hates you.
People
like,
love you.
You have a shitload of like supporters.
This is love.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're literally like, let's throw them $40. Let's wish them the best.
Yeah.
You know, like, I want a part of that. They want a part of that comeback season, you know? And like, the way I looked at it, like, he started, you know, there was lapses. He was on like Good Morning America talking about it. And then like there was a main thing. He was still like, there was a mainstream undertone of it all. Like, he went and did Good Morning America and talked about it. Then I saw him there. He would, you know, he was wavering still mentally. And I was just like, dude, at the end of the day, like, the comeback season, like, he started to feel the pressure of it and failing again. And I was just like, it's about comeback. It's about coming back as a person, man. Not as a, not as a player. Be? Not as a player, though. We're rooting for you so you don't fucking die, kill yourself. You know what I mean? Like, can you turn it around? You know, that's what this ball don't lie shit is too. Just like, he's fucking happy, man. Like, he was on a really bad path, and now he's come back as a person. He's there. He's present. He's like, his soul. You know what I mean? Like, you could feel his soul. You hang out with him. You're like, he's there. You know what I mean? And that's what comeback season represented for me. You know, getting back on the field. I thought that was a comeback in itself, bro. I saw him one point in Vegas, and he literally looked like he was on the verge. Like, he was deathly skinny, hadn't slept in like 5 days. I'm just like, man, you know what I mean? Like, my heart broke for him.
Right.
And then to see it, just get out back on the field and compete at any level was a win. That was a comeback for me, in my perspective. I always said that to him, you know? So, you know, it's interesting. He's a really interesting guy.
I like his perspective. I think he's got good awareness about him.
Yeah.
And like, he's got a good, his extreme ownership and everything too, because I know me personally, like, I was talking to Taylor, I was like, I just want to sit with him and ask him the questions I'm wanting to ask him. I want him to hear it from somebody who was like, who are players with him and not sitting around people that he might have to try to like massage or have a correct answer or anything like that. I just wanted him to hear, like, I wanted him to hear saying the undrafted stuff. Like, I wanted that. Like, well, how did you do this? And he just had a very good response to everything. Like, and again, like, an awareness.
Yeah.
He's never rattled in any response.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when Taylor's like, that's interesting. Like, it's like, did you regret anything?
First off, shout out Bussin With The Boys.
No free shout outs, but shout out Bussin.
Yeah, no, you get plenty of free shout outs over here. Man, I'll be honest. Probably number one most hungover I've ever been on a podcast.
For real? Hey,
Johnny-
we posted that picture and you're like, man, I look wrecked.
Johnny comes in hot, unannounced. Well, actually, I chirped him. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Get to Nashville. We got shit to do. Like,
Yeah.
he's bullshitting in Vegas. And like, I'm like, what the fuck you doing? So I chirped him like drunk. I'm out of Nashville. I remember. And then he's 2 days, I think the next day or the next night, he pulls up, comes in hot. We go full steam ahead. It was Memorial Day weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
We rocked. We rocked like the good old days.
Yeah. In the trenches.
Yeah, I was in the trenches.
Yeah.
And man, I wake up, I'm like, whew. Like I literally I want to say I started to type out a text to you where I was just like, I think it should just be Johnny today. let's have Johnny take the. I mean, at the same time, like Johnny's probably should, because I'm like Johnny's like handler in a weird way. Like I was.
Yeah, you were like, I want to do both. We were all like, we want to do both. You're like, I want this one to be centric around Johnny. And stuff.
Yeah.
But it was good you were there because you're able to
Offer a
bring
little-
up points in the middle of some certain conversations that I think brought a lot of light to the situation.
I was able to gather myself enough to make some valid points. I was struggling. I was like, God damn, it's hot in here.
Oh, bro, yes.
So have you guys just moved?
We just moved yesterday, bro. So we're in a new spot.
The boys.
Access to utilities.
The boys are moving on
The
up.
boys
baby.
are moving up.
Yeah.
Man.
So let's get into your whole story a little bit. I mean, first off, this is Will Compton. I got familiar with you through the Bussin With The Boys stuff. Obviously, I'm connected with Dave and Barstool and see all the stuff they have going on. They have so much shit going on. So I wouldn't say I see everything that Barstool's doing, but saw you guys early, loved it, and I knew both you guys were players, but I didn't know much about either of you, you know, personally or your careers or anything. But I think you got a really hot, cool podcast. That's exciting. I mean,
it is nuts, man. It was cool because like in 2018. I was with the Titans. Now special teams, I was a backup player.
Right.
I came here on a not a minimum, but like a 1 year, $2 million deal. It's kind of like you're not a starter. It's not starter money, but it's, we want you here over these teams that are offering you a minimum.
Right.
And I had an opportunity to compete until draft night, and they drafted a linebacker in the first round. Of course, it fucking sucked. I'm sitting in I want to say it was the Germantown pub, maybe. I was over in Germantown with my boys. I had a couple of my best friends in town. I was just sitting at the bar like, fuck, man. And injuries didn't happen. Not that you root for injuries, but when you're playing and there's depth charts and everything else, like
especially in a sport like football.
Yeah, if you're gonna have an opportunity to play and showcase anything that you got left, you need to be able to get on the field. No one really got injured that year, so I stayed. I didn't really have any tape. And I just played special teams. Had a solid special teams year. But I was like, what was I then, 29 years old? And I was like, yo, like, I was an undrafted white dude, playing backer. Linebacker, anybody can run and tackle, anybody can run and hit. You can find these guys. I'm not the fastest, I'm not the big, I'm not all that shit, right? And I knew I had always wanted to start a podcast. In 2017, I have in my journal, be the first ever active NFL player podcast, and I also had /coach. Because at that point, I also wanted to be in the coaching. Still could, but that's a different world to get into.
Interesting.
But it was like, I want to be the first active player podcast, blah, 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 with 1 million downloads is what my goal was, my 3-year goal. Because I love podcasting. I love the Joe Rogan, Ben Greenfield Fitness for all the performance shit that he does. I was in all that stuff. The Fighter and the Kid, all the comedy ones, Chris D'Elia.
Brendan's my guy.
Yeah. Brendan was awesome too. Pivotal and like mentoring us a little bit. He still does. He's a good dude, man.
He's
yes,
the man.
he really is.
He was like the second guest on YNK.
Yeah, he's the man, bro.
He's the fucking man.
And I was just kind of feeling in that year, I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I need to do it. My girl, she was like, babe, like you need to pull the trigger. You need to start writing stuff down and get into this stuff. And then Taylor's like, yo, you should do it. I was like, well, do you want to do it with me? Because there's that little bit of fear of like, if I go on my own, what's it going to seem like? What's it going to look like?
Yeah.
He didn't, he was iffy at first. And then I was on my way to a Titans radio interview in December. Where it's kind of finishing up. We had our up and down year and stuff. It was that time of the year, dark all the time, cold. You're kind of just thinking of what's coming next. The end of the year's coming. We might not make the playoffs. And I was like, I need to fucking do this thing. I started vision boarding everything. I started writing everything down. What do I want it to look like? How much do we want to be engaging? Like, be the most engaging podcast, brand, like, all these things. The Fighter and the Kid, all these inspirations. That's what I wanted to look like on social media, all this stuff. And I remember telling everybody, I was like, yo, I'm doing that. I'm going for it. And Taylor called me after that radio show, and he's like, so you're going to do it, bro? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. He's like, I'll do it with you. And I was like, let's fucking go. We didn't know the name at the time. And the season ended. Going into that next day, pack your shit, pack up your locker, all that stuff. I'm sitting down with producers. I'm trying to figure out everything we're going to do and looking for a studio. And Taylor's like, hey, I'm going to go to California to train and stuff for 4 months. I'm not going to be back until April. And I'm like, all right, are you sure you're going to do this with me? Because if not, I'm going to get going on this now. But if you are, I'll wait for you, obviously.
I'll wait for you.
Yeah, I'll be here.
How
I'll
romantic.
Be here, man. Yeah.
I'll wait for you.
Yeah. And he was like, no, bro, I want to do it. I was like, all right, cool. He gets back in April. We sit down. The producers we were working with at the time were like, hey, what do you think about doing it on a bus? Would you guys ever do it on a bus? My first thought was no. I was like, why would we do it on the bus? Like, can we get equipment on there, this and that? They're like, there's this bus out in the back parking lot, just sitting there stranded. Doesn't run, doesn't do this. Wasp nest everywhere. Like, the seats are all like, it's, who knows what fucking happened. You needed to get that thing exercised. That's how beat up it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to, but I know when Taylor shows up in 5 minutes, he's going to love this because Taylor likes, like, just off-the-wall shit. Taylor showed up. He's like, oh, yeah, let's do it. He's like, I'll put 10 grand into it. And if it does nothing and it doesn't work with the equipment, he's like, I'll just sit in my backyard and we can find a space that we want to do it in. But if it works, then it could be cool. And so we started going in with the bus. And then we didn't really, like, some branding company out of Illinois maybe brought up, I was working with somebody getting some branding work done. They're like, what do you think of Bussin' With The Boys? Because Taylor and I didn't know if we wanted to use the boys because we had a whole For The Boys thing going on with the Titans that year. And we didn't want it to seem like we're sitting there capitalizing on stuff on our own without the boys being included, even though we were the ones obnoxiously yelling it all the time. So we didn't know if we wanted it to be like For The Boys podcast, blah, blah. Anyway, we landed on Bussin' With The Boys. You know, as a creator, starting anything, you have no clue if anybody's gonna fuck with it.
Yeah.
We backlog probably 5 to 8 episodes before we release our first one. We're on FaceTime every night. Like, dude, do you think people are gonna mess with us? Do you think it's gonna be cool? And just that whole, like, blind faith. Like, yeah, man, I think it's gonna be cool. We had some good interviews. And that's how it all kind of started, man. That's how it all came to life. But it was me thinking, like, I could be done after this year. Like, I could be done playing. Because, again, I don't have a high round pedigree to fall on to where somebody's gonna be like, let's bring him in and give him a chance.
Right.
And I was like, I have enough on film that teams who want me on their team already know what I'm about. Like, they know I'm a heady player, the high IQ, all the intangible stuff that, you know, we get labeled as.
Right.
And I knew I was going to get a shot to play, and it was going to be a 1 year minimum. I wasn't going to get shit, no signing bonus, no nothing. So my thought process was like, I'll skip all the OTAs, all the spring, and I'll try to get on with the team in August if I don't play myself out of the league by having this first podcast where we're just slinging it out there. You know what I mean? Like, we're making headlines with Delaney Walker, the first ever one. You had, like, all these media groups are picking it up because we talked about Delaney he talked about almost dying from an IV, but he was joking. They're picking it up. You start realizing the power and, like, oh shit, people are gonna, like, want to headline shit we say. Cause he's like, you know, if teams want to draft a tight end, if the Titans want to draft a tight end, draft a fucking tight end.
Right.
That becomes a headline. You just realize, like, we're going to have a microscope on us to where maybe I play myself out. But I said, you know, you're saying no to all these tryout opportunities, and you're just like, let's just see if it works, man.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to put all my energy into that. And again, if I get to play again, I knew it was going to be in the same role. So as a minimum guy, I can get on the roster without banging my body up in the spring, try and finesse as much training camp as I can, and then just land on a team.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting pocket of your life.
Oh, it was pivotal.
And, you know, from the outsider perspective, and I have a bit of it's a bit of strange from, like, the barstool athlete community, the way I look at these types of things.
Yeah.
Just like, bro, how old are you?
31 now.
Dude, you're 31. You say that like, 31, man. Like, dude, you have a whole other life.
That is true. But, you know, being an athlete, it's like that football damage.
It's bad programming.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, dude, so you, like, thank God that you didn't psych yourself out and be like, yo, I'm going to play myself out of the league. So you could fucking play and run down and fucking throw your body at someone for another year or so and potentially fuck your body up for your family, your kids, your next career, which you already have.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if I was your friend at the time, you asked me, I'd be like, fucking do it. And if they invite you back and the podcast is popping, tell them to fuck off. But I think you're in the perfect window. You could play the power. What you said is like, oh, you know, you almost looked at it negatively in a sense. The way you framed it was like, we're gonna have a microscope on us. It's really, that's what everyone who ever wants to do anything in media, they would die for the power you guys have. Because the power you have is, it's a unique situation. You're friends and buddies with all these players who, the same reason I have a podcast and it works.
Right.
You have this network because of all the hard work you've done on the field. So it's a part of your story. You know, all that's not null and void. It's all played into this, exactly. But the reason your shit's fast-tracked and it's working is because you've established a camaraderie with the guys in the league. You guys are at a vantage point that none of these media people have that vantage point. Teammate vibe with these guys where they come on, chop it up, and say shit that they wouldn't say. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a really interesting. As soon as I saw it, they're like, "Oh, active football players doing a podcast. It's a good idea." It was like one of my first thoughts when I saw it. I didn't even know you guys.
Yeah,
but
it was.
That's the fucking bread and butter of it. The whole fucking.
Right. That's like the big pool, because you are able to sit down with these players and have these conversations, like locker room talk, all this stuff that gets talked about.
And there's a mutual respect. Like the
Right.
same way we have a mutual respect. When you know someone, you appreciate what they do. You know they work hard or whatever. You like what they do. There's a mutual respect. The guys sitting across from you that, yeah, they're able to connect on a higher level than somebody with a microphone out. Like, what happened on, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a whole different thing. There's a disconnect. There's no like.
Right, and you're able to bring out the perspective too, because, you know, being in a locker room or doing a post-game interview, or honestly, any of that stuff, you're doing an interview, right? But you just know the team's media is on it. The coaches are probably going to read some things on it.
Mm-hmm.
Your teammates are going to kind of see whether or not it's real. Like, at the end of the day, when you get all this enlightenment stuff and all this spiritual stuff, you realize like you just make all these illusions up in your head.
Exactly.
But you're standing there, and maybe your backup or somebody next to you is listening to whatever you're saying, and in your mind, you're like, you know, I'm not going to sound like some asshole or make it seem like, you know, I was born to do this. I was ready for this. And then they're sitting there like, what is this dude talking about?
Yeah.
So you like have all this like composure, like you keep yourself in this box.
100%.
To where now when you sit on, I mean, you've been on the bus, you sit on the bus.
It's raw.
Yeah. We let guys know, hey, if you get uncomfortable, if there's something you're driving back, you're like, hey, I don't want that in there.
Us too.
Yeah, it's like, let us know. It's the whole mantra about being for the boys. Like, we want to protect, like, if you feel uncomfortable,
Exactly.
even though it's not as big as what you think it's going to be, we will take it out for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to save 25% on the most quintessential supplement in the world? John Kilmer here with Liquid IV. Now, we've been working with Liquid IV for probably over a year now. I can honestly say it is the only supplement that I've been taking on a daily basis. That is because it is a hydration supplement. I mean, I can't stress how important hydration is, whether you're getting over a cold, whether you live an active lifestyle, whether you get your ass pounded on the weekends like we do at the bars. Hydration is so important. It is paramount. They come in these fantastic little packets here where, you know, it's called the hydration multiplier because if you put one of these packets into a bottle of water, it's the equivalent of 2 to 3 bottles of water of hydration. Wow, what a fantastic thing. Now, on top of the hydration multiplier, Liquid IV has the immunity boost hydration multiplier. So you're not only getting that hydration, but you're getting fantastic things like vitamin C and zinc and all those good things to keep you healthy, especially around this season when everyone's just fucking getting sick. So take care of yourself. We love the product. We all take it on a daily basis. I've gotten real IVs before and I've drank Liquid IV. I can honestly say I feel the same after both, and one doesn't involve a needle. So I highly suggest you take the Liquid IV. You throw it into a bottle of water, boom, you take it, you're good to go. We have a fantastic offer for you today. If you go to liquidiv.com and use promo code YNK at checkout, you're going to get 25% off your entire order. That's liquidiv.com, promo code YNK, 25% off the entire order. You can also run over to Costco and buy those babies in bulk because they're offered at every Costco. So liquidiv.com, promo code YNK at checkout to get 25% off your entire order. Tell them Steve sent you.
One thing I don't want to rush by, and I don't know, you know, it's right up my alley, is you mentioned writing it down. You said you wrote it down. When did you start doing stuff like that?
So This dates back to going into senior year of college. I played for the Pellinis. I don't know if you know who Bo Pelini is, but playing at college, I played at Nebraska. And, I knew like, okay, I could potentially be a draft pick. I could, do all this stuff, but I was in my own head as a young athlete. And my boy, he's a running back he just signed with the Texans, but he played for the Patriots. He's played for the Patriots a while. He was drafted by the Bengals, Rex Burkhead. And
he played on the Patriots.
Yeah, he's a beast, man. Talk about good old boy. He's the man, bro.
That's what we like. We love that.
And Rex had this confidence about him to where it never really seemed like his mental would waver when he's getting cussed out or, you might make a tackle for 3 or 4 yards on first down and you're just getting MF by the sideline. Like, it's too fucking much. And you're kind of like in space trying to make a tackle thinking, don't miss his tackle. And this was before I'm learning about the mental space, sports psychology. Sports psychology kind of opened me up to all of this stuff. But you start realizing like, oh, I'm using my brain as a disadvantage instead of a tool. Like, because what you think you become, like all this stuff, the law of attraction stuff. And Rex always had this unwavering mental ability about him to where I was like, hey, Rex, like, is there something you do, anything you read? And he put me on this book called Mental Edge by Kenneth Baum. He was like a professional, like sand volleyball guy. And I got on his stuff and I started putting it to use my senior year and like going into pro day because I wasn't a combine guy, which pissed me off, which had me sensitive, like in my feelings, like damn. And I put this stuff to work through all this psychology stuff, and it paid off. Like the 40 times, like stuff I had written down was like coming into fruition. So I'm like, it kind of clicked for me.
Real thing, bro.
Yeah, it's a real thing, bro. I'm talking. My scouts, I would sit with scouts and they would talk about like my anticipated 40 was like a 4.85. In my head in high school, I ran a 4.5. Yes, it was handheld, but like I'm like, damn, like people really think I'm slow like that. And then you're like in your own mind about it. I'm writing all this stuff down and doing all this mental training where you're sitting at home, you're meditating, you're doing stuff to where you're feeling like you're smelling the turf, you're feeling the turf between your fingers. Like you're trying to put all the scouts at the end of the 40, like that pressure. You're trying to put it all around you. So that way you've ran the 40 probably 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times before you even actually run it on pro day. And all this stuff paid off to where I ran a 4.56 laser. And it was like, I hit all of these
laser
things.
Beam.
Laser boys. And that kind of like opened me up to this perspective of the mental. And I was young too, so you're like listening to all this stuff that everybody's kind of listened to throughout their life, the Tony Robbins, all of these things.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what helped me make the team on the Redskins. I worked with a sports psychology coach because I would tweet about it, and I got connected with somebody through social media, through Twitter, Ben Newman.
Yeah.
And we would sit and do all these one-on-one sessions, and he could tell I would doubt myself. Like, if I don't make the Redskins, there's 31 other teams out there. And he's like, how do you think you would feel if you truly believed, like, and you woke up and was like, yeah, I'm going to be a Washington Redskin? I'm like, it feels nice, but, and he's like, no, you can't doubt yourself.
Yeah.
You can't doubt it. You can't let it come into your mind.
And
that's how it started for me.
The whole thinking thing is very interesting. It's very, very interesting that, because we're really the only, species or like beings that have these like conscious, this consciousness and these like thoughts where like animals are just they're in their natural state. They're just literally in flow. They're doing what they're
right. We're animals with this unbelievable conscious.
Right, but like, dude, you don't like, you never like, you ever thought about breathing? Like, start thinking about your breathing. It might get a little, like, your breath gets a little off. Like, you're like, and then you like.
Have you gotten into breathing?
Oh, yeah.
Bro,
oh, yeah.
That's another
game changer.
Another game changer.
I'm on this whole wave. I was going to say, you were doing it way before I was. I was like 26, 27 years old before I even had any one fucking ounce of my thought or awareness on these aspects of life, Yeah. And then it was interesting because when I started to learn about it, I looked back, I was like, oh, I was manifesting a lot, So a lot of the success I had.
Because you had this, some dudes just got like certain juice
about
them
too. I had a certain
too.
thing where I just like, I didn't doubt myself much at all.
That's what I'm saying. Some dudes got that.
Yeah, and I didn't really care, like, even like, dude, like, a white rapper from Duke named Mike Stead played baseball. Like, talk about a guy you want to hate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but like, didn't cross my mind. I was like, whatever. Like I knew, like, people would laugh when I walked out of the room at home when they like started making rap music and like, yo, wasn't he an All-American baseball player 2 years ago? Now he's rapping. Like, you know what I mean? Like, went to Duke and became a rapper. Like, awesome. You know
But
what I mean?
that's dope though. Like I didn't necessarily like I had the I'm gonna prove these motherfuckers wrong mentality, like in high school and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was more like work and effort.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the mental, because I still very much cared like reading message boards and shit like that. Like back in before
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah,
So
but-
I didn't necessarily have like that came, and then after you learn about all this stuff, then you realize how much ego's involved with this whole creating and manifesting the law of attraction. Like not dangerous, because I think there's a healthy balance to it.
Yeah, there
but
is.
when you look back, and because I didn't get into breathing stuff until last year,
Yeah.
but like the whole transition and development of it, you kind of realize like, okay, also like who do I want to be as a person in other areas of my life, not just ball.
Right.
Because I am wrapped up in my own ego when it comes
Oh
to
my
playing
God.
football.
I mean, as an athlete,
Yeah.
wow. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, to this day, no matter how, people be like, oh man, you seem pretty, tapped in spiritually in a good place. Like, I'll still catch myself if I had like a shitty few nights in the studio. My self-worth is down.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I can't like go have dinner with the guys. And I'm like, it's just like, why? Like, we're on like the whole thing is just like, and the point about your age and shit, like, dude, it's just one fucking chapter in your book. Like, and it's, you forget that you're a human being on planet Earth, and like, it doesn't revolve around fucking putting on pads and running on a grass field your whole life. You know what I mean? There's just like, there's so much possibilities out here. Like, I remember thinking baseball, I remember being depressed as fuck when my arm just popped randomly. I was All-American. Like,
Right.
My entire life was
Did
art.
you get what the lowest ERA or something with Duke still running?
Still.
I love
I
that.
think it might be safe. We'll see. Someone come get it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Duke baseball. They won the ACC tournament, which hadn't happened in a long time.
Oh, for real?
They just won it. Wishing them luck in the tournament. But yeah, I had like a miracle season almost. Now that I look back, it was almost as I become spiritual and stuff. I look back and I was like, oh, that was like a send off, like a higher power almost. Because I literally remember I was pitching. That's like the best baseball conference, arguably, and I just remember throwing like 2-0 fastballs to like Matt Wieters, who's like been a big leaguer for 10 years, and he just fucking like lines out to the second baseman, and it's like a 90-mile-per-hour fastball right down the middle. It just like hit the shit out of it right at someone, caught it. I'm just like, as I was putting the season together, and I knew I was onto something as we were like halfway through. I'm like, bro, our stats guys were like, you're leading the fucking conference as a freshman in the ERA and shit. And then that almost was like bad. Like I almost preferred I didn't, because then I started thinking about it and shit. But then I had just had, like, I started, I didn't know anything about awareness or anything, but I remember having those thoughts. I'm like, seems like everything's bouncing my way. You know what I mean? Like, not, like, my point is, yes, I was very good, but I can pinpoint times that, like, that was an average pitch. Like, that literally could have been hit over the wall. That could have been a 3-run home run, and the ERA is not toast, but like, I was a closer.
Yeah.
So I would come in the end of the games to, last few innings if we were winning.
Yeah.
Or if it was close.
And just bring the juice.
Yeah, just bring the noise. But like, my point is, I had like 60 or 70 innings. I think the minimum for an ERA record is like 50 or 45. So some of the starters have 100 innings, So I wasn't the highest inning guy on the team. And the point is, like, one of those guys just, if that ball just was hit at a hot, like, it's a game of centimeters. Like, if you hit a baseball, it's like a game of centimeters, where if you just hit that in the gap, these guys score. Who knows? They score 5-6 runs. No ERA, no All-American season.
That is true.
And like, I was just like, why? I remember thinking that. I was just like, man, this is just what I do. I'm lucky, like this is how this shit is. I remember thinking that. And then all the luck changed. I never pitched again. I right before the next season, my elbow starts barking, which it was interesting that the way the timing was, because in baseball, if you commit to college, you're not draft eligible until after your junior season. So like, I couldn't be one and done, because I would have been. So like, I have that All-American year, but I'm still there for 2 years. I can't go to the draft. So the next year, my elbow starts bothering me. Like, hey, let's just play this safe. You know what I mean? Like, they did an MRI. They're like, maybe could need surgery, but if you rest this and rehab this, you're fine. We'll redshirt the sophomore year, you'll play next year, you could be draft eligible. redshirt the entire year, chill. I'm rehabbing my balls off, fucking in the mirror, practicing my pitches.
Yeah.
Shit I've never done before, because I've never been on the sideline. I never had any idle time. And sit out that year. Junior year comes back around. We're like, all right, let's do this shit. Pop. Now I'm out for 16 months from there, and I just sat out last season. So from having an All-American
Did you get
year.
surgery once it popped?
Yeah, then I needed surgery. So I have the surgery, and I'm out for at least 16 months or so for Tommy John, usually more like 20. So from being a guy who never missed a game, I was like the guy who just pitched like in high school, never came out of a game once. I started and finished every game I ever pitched. From that to just sitting around, I literally sat and twiddled my thumbs and watched all my boys play. And it's crazy to think back, I didn't even know about the mental side of sports. Like as you were saying, like completely ignorant to it. And it was crazy what that idle time did to my confidence and just my overall approach to the game, like to competing. Started looking at everyone like, why is he having success? What's he doing? Well, he's doing good. How can I do that? And I'd be in the mirror and doing the shit I can do. And it's just like all that sitting around, it got up in my head. I was like all about, instead of being in flow and not thinking, bro, I didn't think about one thing. I just run out there and throw it as hard as I could, past people. You know, I challenged them. Like I never was like, is my mechanics, is my foot landing here properly? Like, is my arm working the right way?
Just grip and rip.
Yeah. And after that, I never was the same. And, you know, had issues with my recovery, and was like the first time where I really had a true hardship in my life. It was sugar. I was fucking on the yellow brick road. You know what I mean? Like everything was just flowing at my feet. Up to that point in my life, I'd never been challenged with a true hardship. And then basically my entire identity was kind of lost through that time. That was where I had that realization. Again, I wasn't really even very versed in any of this stuff. So I was just, what I can say looking back is I did stay positive. You know, like I remember seeing it in my parents' face. They were just like sad. They were sad for me. Like all my boys were getting drafted who I was like better than. You know what I mean? And I'm like still like in a sling, like, you know, trying to figure it out. Like, and then I come back and pitch and I'm like a fucking C- version of what I was. Just not even the wing, like my arm didn't even work the same. And I want to say a lot of it was mental. Like I felt like, I was like, oh, my arm's not as fluid anymore. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like became this whole thing. But thank fucking God, man. If you told me, like I have a lot of guys on here, I've had some fucking 100 million guys on here. Christian Yelich, these guys who fucking generationally rich from playing baseball. And if you told me I could be them, I'd say, keep it.
In what way?
I'd keep it. Like I have no interest, you know what I mean? Like what I've gone on to do in my life and the experiences I've had in the past 7-8 years, I could die tomorrow. I really could. I'd just be like, yo, I sent it. I had a blast.
Die young, die hero.
I had a blast doing this shit though, really. Like I wouldn't feel the same if I made 100 million and I died. He was a Hall of Fame baseball player. Like my thing is my personal truth from what I know and my experiences in my heart, I like this. I like doing this shit. I like being free. I like, you know what I mean? I like just like, there's a quote like, you know what you know. I don't want to keep doing what I know. I want to keep, like, that's the interesting part. That's
right.
what, bro, I have why this is the You Never Know podcast. My biggest part of my branding is YNK. Because like my whole story is like, bro, I didn't even know I could make music. That
is true. It's always like that whole cliche, that blessing in disguise.
It really
like
truly
you don't
was.
see something coming, because, you know, if I look at my situation too, like, what if I was a starter that year? Like, would I have even thought?
Yeah, you wouldn't even
like,
be doing
let me put
You wouldn't be doing this. You're
right.
gonna have, this is gonna be an amazing chapter in your life. And you could have blocked it, or situationally, things could have blocked it if you were all the things you thought you were supposed to have.
Right.
Like you thought you were supposed to have those spots, and you thought you wished you could be a little faster, a little bigger, so that you were a definite guy, you know? So who knows, bro? You could be playing on some team, get your fucking leg blown off doing that shit. Like you're playing with giants out there.
Yeah.
You wanna have a fucking life after it? You know what I mean? Like, and I think sports breeds that. It's a very tunnel vision. You have to be great. Like to be great, you have to have that tunnel vision.
Oh yeah, you really do.
Yeah,
you really do.
To really, like even to play in the NFL whatsoever, so much of your mental, physical, all of your life energy was channeled towards that. Everything revolved around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of your being, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think we're in an interesting time. These are the conversations I like to have with the athletes, you know? And
Oh, yeah.
and a lot of them are already thinking it, because you get to a certain age, you're like, I know life isn't just baseball. Like, you start thinking about it. Like, you just start realizing, you get a little older, you're not a fucking little stupid kid anymore. Like, you just
That
like,
brainwash, dude, because even you're like, it takes tunnel vision to be great, but also think it like relatively, like think about that high schooler who was good enough just to get a D2 scholarship.
yeah,
And they're grinding.
Yeah.
Like their grind in high school or in that pivotal, in that transition is the same as like maybe a college dude going to the league that's
Yeah.
kind of on that bottom tier where
Absolutely.
they realize we got to lock in. So it's like that moment of, and it's not even a moment, because I would say it's more so like it's got to be like a development.
it's a journey.
Yeah, but just waking up, I guess.
Yeah.
That being woke.
It's a good book.
Yeah, self-awareness.
Sam Harris, I think, is Waking Up.
Yeah, I haven't read that one, but I
good
know
one.
they talk about being woke.
Yeah.
Like people don't actually want to wake up to
Yeah.
what is real because they want to hide behind all these illusions. This is the book Self-Awareness.
Yeah. Man, all this literature and shit, like people will chirp me, especially like in the Barstool crowd and like the sports crowd, because I'll get picked up. Some of my stuff will get picked up because I have athletes on, so the sports crowd.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is this guy? Be like, bro, what do you put down the weed, bro? You're not Gandhi, bro. I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to preach at all. Like, that's the opposite. I'm trying to share. I'm literally just like, yo, I used to be exactly that, you know? And like,
Right.
I literally used to be that. So I sit from where I am now, I look back, I'm just like, man, I was fucking just blind to, like, in my opinion, you know? Like,
Right.
and everyone has their own truth, you know?
Yeah, and two, like when you're in this world that we're in, where
Yeah.
you're making, you're like in the creative, you're kind of being vulnerable enough, put yourself out there
Yeah.
and talk about it. Like my growth too, realizing like, oh, I'm gonna get in different audiences that don't know the guy who people have followed since Nebraska,
Right.
and then the guy who people followed since Washington, the guy where
Right.
it's like, oh, we love him in Nashville or for the boys. Like you're gonna acquire new people that just kind of question like who like.
Yeah.
Who's this dude? Looks like he's just trying to figure something out since he's not good at football anymore. And it's
Right.
like, you know.
And that's another thing you're just making up in your head.
Right.
Do you sell products online? Well, listen up, because I'm about to change your life. John Kilmer here with ShipStation. Now, if you know anything about us, we're constantly selling products online, whether it be merchandise, Stevenson Ranch stuff, Chug Buds, you name it. We would be completely fucking effed if we didn't have ShipStation. We've been using them for years. Now, what ShipStation is, it's a service that very effectively and efficiently automates all of your orders. You can easily just press a button and ship out your printing labels. And you're not only saving a bunch of time, but you're saving a bunch of money, because you are now getting access to all of the best rates from all the major carriers like UPS, USPS, and FedEx. You're getting the same discounts that Fortune 500 companies are getting, even as a small business, no matter what size your business is. So if you go to ShipStation.com, please check out the website. Unless you've been living under a Dwayne Johnson, you probably already know about ShipStation, but we have a fantastic offer for you today. If you go to ShipStation.com and at the top of the page, click the little microphone, you're gonna use our promo code YNK and get 2 months absolutely free. No commitment whatsoever. Just try the service out, guys. You're gonna absolutely love it. That's ShipStation.com. The little microphone up top, you're going to click it and use promo code YNK to get 60 days for free. And hey, don't forget to tell them Steve sent you.
But also, like, there's just an interesting thing about thinking in general that I think we're fucking up a little bit just as humans, and what our society is curated, and how we look at it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not like, oh, my heart's beating right now. Like, look at it beat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even when in regards to having thoughts. Like, I'm not even a huge proponent of like thinking much. Really, truly. Like, I
Explain that. Explain not thinking much.
yeah. Like, my boy has a tattoo right here. He's my right hand man. He does all my creative. Don't think. Don't try. Like, it's all about flow state. So like, I wake up and I go where my passions are. Like, I literally, and yes, like, I've had tons of luck, like just pure flat out luck. I take no ownership in the fact that I was given this body. Same way, why were we this body? And why, like, you don't think a million other people wanted to have our body and be able to compete? Why? As much as, oh man, I worked hard, I earned this shit, fuck you guys. You don't think, let's even zoom out of that. You don't think that everyone out there wishes, like, you don't think they want to have a good work ethic? You don't think they wanted to have good parents that instilled that in them? Great teachers and coaches and shit, the people that made us who we are. And yeah, I work hard. I do. As much as I bullshit and party, you see we're right down, for those listening, we're right down downtown Broadway.
Oh, we're in it.
Yeah, we're in the mud.
In it right
you go
now.
out there, there's bachelor party, like you can get gobbled up down there by a bachelor party, about bachelorette party, anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm working in my room 10 hours out of the day most of the time, you know? And there's a work ethic there that's instilled in me from my dad and mom, and that's luck. People are born into these families and these tough situations and have these hardships, and they're not as talented or good looking or intelligent, or these are all things that, like, we talk about getting rid of your ego. I don't have any ego in it. You know what I mean? Like, even working hard and shit and being diligent, or, you know, like, yeah, I'm a doer, you know? But you don't think everyone wants to be? Like, as much as you can say, oh, you're lazy, man. I'm just saying, if you zoom out of that even more, you're just like, you know, deep down, they wish they had the willpower. Like, they don't have the skills and the tool. Like, they weren't given a lot of the support that we were given, you know, in various ways.
But what do you think about when some families, like brothers or something, right, where they come from the same environment?
True.
And one, you know, is more successful than the other.
Yeah.
And the other might play the blame game a little bit more. I just think it just all depends, man.
We
talk about thoughts.
I like your
too.
point, but I have a thought for that. Like, you could be married to your wife for fucking 40 years, sleep next to her in bed every night. Every night you go to bed alone. You guys share 75% of your life experiences you've shared over the last 40 years. When you go to bed, it's you.
I agree with that.
You're the only person. So your brother, fuck your brother. He has a whole different fucking brain.
Right. I'm talking about people that don't get what they're wanting, and they got to hear a hard truth, like, hey man, speaking to the laziness, like, you're lazy.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think there's validity in that, for sure.
And somebody's like, you know, my upbringing and stuff like that, like, hey man, we wake up, we go to the same stuff. Say it's a teammate or something like that.
There's validity to that.
You're trying to put that in.
There's validity to that, but I hear, like, to me, there's validity to both sides of what we're saying. I just choose to like look at it from like a non-judgmental. I have zero ego in it. There's ego.
Yeah, but that's good. That's ultimately what we need to have,
like
because
more,
it's all context. Like, we don't know how they grew up. But if, like, to your point, because I'm huge on saying, like, no one lays on your pillow with the same stress every night. Like, we might be in business together, right?
Yeah.
And to where, you know, we don't carry we're not carrying all the same thoughts all the time. Like, and as much as we want each other to succeed, like, you're not gonna make sure that I'm taken care of the next day. Like, you lay on your pillow with your stress. So you need to figure out what you want. And if what you want is what, you know, these other people are saying, or what you think you actually want, if it is, you need to figure out how to have extreme ownership about it, because no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
Burn the fucking boats.
You're coming from, you're a fucking hard-nosed,
hard-working
football motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dude, I kind of came from the same thing, you know? But have you ever, like, I've had life-changing conversations with some people that I would have never sat down and had conversations with, because of how my life has shifted so much. I've been around very different people, you know, like living in LA and the arts, and like I've sat down, like I have a good friend of mine who wasn't mentally unstable at all, and then became very mentally unstable and didn't know why. He just cried to me, just like, I don't know why. Sometimes I just be like, yo, I'd rather just fucking jump off a building. And he doesn't know why. So at that moment, I was just like, the fact that anyone's trying to tell anyone what they should be thinking or doing, or, hey man, just fucking get out of bed and figure it out, bro. Like, this,
no doubt.
This just isn't like, life isn't like a competition.
For
It's
sure.
not.
For me, it's more like, I guess I'm speaking more to the, like, okay, I'm listening to you say stuff.
And I'm not saying that's you.
Yeah,
I'm coming from the other perspective.
I love this conversation.
Yeah, no.
I'm all about this.
This is what it's about.
And if somebody's like, if somebody's telling me the things that they're wanting out of life and doing and stuff like that, but their actions and the way they're actually moving is different from what they're
100%.
saying, it's like, truth
And
is
there's
like poetry.
there's tons of that going
The
on.
whole
Tons of
quote,
people.
truth is like poetry, but everyone fucking hates poetry. You just don't want to hear the truth. Like, you don't want to wake up and realize,
Yeah.
hey, what do you really want, man?
Yeah.
Because you're living in all these illusions.
100%.
If it takes me to, say that to you,
And
if that's going to shut you
sometimes
down or
it
whatever,
does.
right. And if it's not what you're wanting or what I'm saying, then that's your own thing. But you just need to know,
Right.
no one, again, when you lay on your pillow at night, no one's carrying whatever you're carrying. And you got to figure out how to gain some awareness and perspective on it so you can act on whatever it is that you're feeling or thinking.
Yeah. We were on the roof talking about psychedelics. And,
Yeah.
I've been very open about, I've had I credit a lot of my overall, like, compassion and just, like, I had no compassion. No self-compassion.
Just no compassion for you or
I had
yourself
no
or
compassion
anybody.
for others. Like, never, and not in a way like, oh, fuck them, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, in general, in the sense of, like, where I'm coming from on all these arguments and these conversations, and, like, it is different than the sports. It's very, like, I'm left of the sports world in the way I look at it. Because, again, like, that's what it's about. You gotta fucking get up again. You know what I mean? You get knocked down, get up again, go fucking run through a wall. That's why, you know what I mean? It's like what makes you a fucking great athlete, you know? So it's like, trust me, I've lived it. That's, like, I didn't play football, but it was that same, and I had that. And then, changing to using the other side of my brain for the most part, and, like, started creating, and that was it. And, like, the athletics and the battle competition was gone. So, like, it was an interesting transformation period for me, and it wasn't very smooth. I had, like, I was kind of lost out in LA and, like, didn't really know how I was seeing things, didn't like how I was seeing things. I made a bunch of money for the first time and had this house, that I triple the size of the house I grew up in, that I should be with my buddies living with me and just should be happy when I wake up. I wasn't. You know what I mean? I really was looking at life as a competition. I was like, why can't I, why isn't the big record labels coming after me, or why isn't this getting 1 million plays, and why? And then, like, I was like, I want to credit a lot of it to, I went out, I started dabbling with psychedelics. I started reading this stuff first, got into Rogan, and I really connected with some of this. And, like, I liked his outlook on a lot of things. He started talking about psychedelics, and I started to think, we're programmed to think, like, well, it's bad, stay away from that.
Oh, it's labeled a drug or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I mean?
You just think that way.
But you look at a guy who's successful and level-headed, like a Joe Rogan, where I'll sit through a conversation and be like, oh, that's a good guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got, like, a good perspective.
Yeah, like, you could, and people, he has such a big platform that anything he says, there's gonna be fucking 3,000 people over there that think it sucks and he's an asshole. But, like, I know how I feel. So then I'm like, oh, like, he's talking about doing DMT 5 times in a day. Like, like, I'm down. Like, I started feeling a calling towards something, a shift, and we went out and went out with the purpose of tripping out in Joshua Tree. Got this house, amazing house, no one around, middle of the desert. Just ate a bunch of mushrooms. And played Casey Musgraves the entire day, played Rufus Du Sol the entire night. Hadn't even really listened to them before. That night, I'm like, oh, this is, my entire music identity shifted. That was, like, literally when I was like, I want to make some flash shit like this, like the way it makes you feel, like, instead of, at that point I was rapping about, like, I'll fuck your girl, and the bravado, like the braggadocious rap shit that, like, it's whack, it's all ego, it's terrible, you know what I mean?
Stuff that's just overplayed.
And I like the way rap music will make you feel, like the energy of it. I'm just talking about, is this really the message that I want to go down with? Like, if this is my art,
Right.
And then I had, like, a breakthrough musically there. Psychedelics a big part of. I had, like, a huge kind of revelation, even just, it wasn't just this one moment. Like, after that, after we went out there, I came back, I started feeling myself, I became a lot more compassionate towards people and stopped judging people, I started doing this podcast, and I treated my conversation like, bro, I would be living my life, and I'd go out in public and shit, and I'm not A-list, I'm fucking D-list famous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but like, I wouldn't give people, they would come up to me or even just strangers on the like, I was just like so in my own bubble. And psychedelics was another thing. I was like, dude, I'm gonna fucking live in this little bubble, the Mike Stud world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people would be talking to me, I wouldn't really even be listening to them. You know what I mean? I was like programmed, like, yeah, cool, yeah. And I just shifted. I started like really wanting to hear people talk, and like, you know, and then I learned a lot about myself through like that conversation I had with one of my friends who like told me, he's just like, sometimes I want to fucking go run and play in traffic. And I don't know why. And I know the kid well. Like, he wasn't like that, and he doesn't know why. So I was just like, oh my God, how could I even, I don't judge any, like I stopped judging people we really judge, all we're ever doing is judging. Oh, traffic,
Constantly. That's,
traffic today, oh, the weather sucks. Oh man, I'm running late, there's a fucking long line. Oh, why she gotta say that? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I realized all that shit.
No,
it's
you're
crazy.
Right. And it's crazy too, because you also realize that this type of stuff, it never stops.
Yeah.
You can't just at some point be like, oh, you know, I have a lot of awareness now, this and that, and then you kind of stop taking care of your mental a little bit, and then you kind of realize that ego starts to come back in because you feel like you figured out the whole awareness wheel.
Bingo. But here's an outlook on this too, because dude, I fucking 3 days ago I was off of Bender. Right after I saw, it might have been before or after I saw you guys on Bussin. Was in the trenches, had like fucking nurse come over here and fill me up with every kind of vitamin she had.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I haven't meditated in 3 days. I hadn't taken care of my body whatsoever. I hadn't journaled. I hadn't listened to any spirit. Like every night before I go to bed, I start my day and I end my day with something spiritual, like a teaching, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's church in its own way. I'm not like religious, but you know, like it is for me in that sense. And yeah, I like, all you have to do is I like took inventory, and I was like, I had kind of not negative thoughts, but the whole undertone of the whole thing was like slight like shame and like, you know what I mean? Like, man, you went too hard. Like, what are you doing? You know, like that type of shit, right? And there's validity in like, you got to check yourself, you know? But as you said, like, a cool way of looking at it and giving yourself a break is like, you had 30 years, or let's call it 27, before you even started thinking about all this shit, right? So most of your programming is geared towards your ego. Think about it in sports terms. You've been playing golf for 27 years straight, and you started playing fucking volleyball for the last 4 years. They're two different sports, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when you stop practicing volleyball for a little while, you know what I mean? You're gonna go back to this, like all your innate in our nature, it's like we're geared towards like our ego and thinking kind of in the old way, like our old programming, you know, for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I work on it a lot, and I feel like I've made a lot of growth. And for people listening, like a lot of my fans are super into this stuff now, and they're like, a lot of their questions are like, dude, I can't stay consistent. Like these negative thoughts will come back. I'm like, dude, you just started. Like if I just say I just started golfing, bro, I'm not gonna be good at golf for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta play for fucking 20 years. So like if you're trying to make the shift in your brain and your perspective, like you gotta be really kind of easy on yourself.
Right.
And that's what a lot of these books have taught me. Like,
and not worry so much about outcomes too.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is it you're actually upset that you're not being consistent on? Is it the self that you're trying to learn about, like asking like, who do I want to be? Like, you know, who does Will Compton want to be on a daily basis with his friends? Like, not the stuff that brings outcomes. It's good to have those things just for goals, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you live in those worlds, that's where you start to feel like you fall short, because the minute you don't stay on course, you derail a little bit because you haven't attained whatever goal it is that you've said.
I put everyone in my life that I ever met, especially on this podcast, on this one book. Have you read The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success?
No. I'm on it though, because I love that.
You need
shit.
it right now. Because like there's exactly what you just said. It's like the law of detachment. And it fucking articulates it. So you can read it in one day. It's my Bible. I've read it like 30 times.
That's awesome.
There's memes on the internet of like, me bringing up the 7 spiritual laws and everyone like sighing because they're sick of me talking about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, man, there's a little chapter on that and they articulate it. And I remember reading it and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed to hear.
What is it called? 7 spiritual.
The 7 spiritual laws of success. It's by Deepak Chopra, who's like a legendary like spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
Really good, really concise and clean, and just like, if you read it top to bottom, and like I've literally read it 20 times because I literally feel like I need to revisit it. You know what I mean? I just constantly need to remind myself about some of the things. But there's a chapter, the law of detachment, articulates that so well, what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
The outcomes, the results.
Yeah, because a lot of times too, like, and it is like, I'm gonna cop that book right away.
Yeah.
But like sometimes you sit there and some of these thoughts, you're like, man, how can I articulate like what I'm trying to think in my head?
Yeah,
But,
like doing a podcast, like, you know, people like chirp like, oh, you say like too much, or you know, like I'm not a concise. Like this is the way I look at it is like, even when we were talking about upstairs, like I couldn't even like have questions planned. Like the way I look at it is like, don't think.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this almost sounds like subconscious speech. Like I know how I feel about the things and I can get to the points and I can feel them out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not a fucking, you know, I'm learning this shit. Like I'm balls deep in like trying to understand it and have it become my nature because I know how it makes me feel, man. I knew how I felt. I had money and a supermodel girlfriend, bro. I thought that was the shit. It wasn't.
Right. Yeah, I know. Isn't that nuts too? It's like you get to certain spots and you just realize like it's not about that. And it's also scary too because there's a lot of nights I'll sit up where I'll be, you know, banged up a little bit, like, you know, whether I'm on an edible or something like that. And I'll just be laying in bed like, man, like ultimately, like, what is this all about? And it's kind of sad because I'm real personable with all my friends. Like, I'm just a personable guy.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy my friends, I enjoy my boys, I enjoy moments, I enjoy like thinking of memories. And you sit back and you're like, man, this is over. But this part of me is over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously that's the wrong kind of way to
Yeah, no,
look
I know
at
what
it.
you mean,
state to be in.
100%.
But you sit back and you're like,
I've had those.
what is it gonna be like? Because you know when you're in high school and you're going through it,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, we're all doing our thing in high school. And we're all gonna figure out who does what in life. Obviously, it's all ego.
Yeah.
But you almost think we're all gonna figure out what we're gonna do in our world of One Tree Hill and all these little shows you watch growing up.
Where's Kilmer at? Kilmer loves that show.
Oh, for real? Yeah. Yo, big One Tree Hill guy. I was back in high school. And you think we're all gonna do our thing, right? And we're all gonna come back and live in a community together to where we all kind of flash and see what our things are. You never go back to high school. You never go back to college. Like, you never go back to these moments. Like, if I'm like, yo, peak Will Compton as a linebacker, I'm like, man, those days are probably behind me.
Yeah.
And I say probably just in case your scouts out there watching. I'm ready to go. The boy's ready to go.
Yes.
But you're like, man, those moments, that team I was on, those boys, those relationships I had, you didn't know that was the last time you're going to see them. And you're like, man, it's all over. And it's like, what, you know.
You're spot on.
What continues to come next? And you realize like you just got to constantly, and I don't even want to say work on because now you got to, it's like you check in and tap in. You probably have a thought on it, but
100%.
you're saying you got to make sure like, you know, you're staying the course mentally, spiritually, all these things that kind of continue to wake you up every day, get your rocks off,
Exactly.
allow you not to think too much into any situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like,
You're so
like
right.
good and
You're
bad.
very ready for the 7 laws of spiritual success.
Oh, for real?
That's
I can't
another
wait.
thing. You're ready.
I'm gonna get that thing, bro.
You're just talking about another thing in there. It's really I think these are super valuable conversations to have because I can identify with that completely.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty. That was what I was going through back then. Even, you know, just like I remember even, you know, like it's just the work when you talk about working on it. Yeah, it is working on it. But it's really what the work is towards is just like once you have the perspective breakthroughs on some of these things.
Yeah.
And then it's just upkeep. But you have these shifts in the way
That's better to think about too, like perspective breakthroughs instead of like working on it.
Yeah, exactly. Because but you will it will always be like I said. I have to after 3 days of not doing it and fucking raging, poisoning my body with all this shit. Yeah, you know, like. Another interesting thing, this is a shower thought earlier, like the way we look at challenges. like the way we look at life, right? When challenges come up, like you're like, oh man, fuck, it's somebody, I deserve a spot, you know what I mean? Or whatever the issues are in your life, for anyone listening, like just the day-to-day challenges of things that happen, like the challenges the small challenges, or whether they're big or small, that's not what brings the unhappiness. It's us expecting that we shouldn't have challenges that brings the unhappiness. Why, who said life's gonna be easy? Why do we think that? Like, I think it all the time. I literally like fucking driving earlier. I was like, I was like running behind, and I missed getting to the gym because I was like in traffic and I was trying to get to the sauna and it was closing and I missed it. And there was this lady in front of me, she's like, she wouldn't pull out, it was a tough pull out. I'm like, fucking traffic. I'm like, of course, you know what I mean? I literally had this thought. I'm like, why do I expect the fucking, like I'm Moses, like, everyone get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, like and then that's what it is. The challenge is like, why do we have to look at them and judge them and be like, fuck, man? Because at the end of the day, it's challenge after challenge after challenge.
Every day is gonna have them.
There's gonna be some form of a challenge all the time.
Yeah.
So instead of resisting it, it's just like, oh, this is the challenge right now.
Yeah, this is part of it.
Instead of we all just do it. I do it right now to this day. Like, get riled up and unhappy with it. Like, I found what this album, I've ran into, like, I'm finishing this album, and, you know, some things came up, business, because we run the business too, and I handle all, like, artists finish their album, they turn it in. Like, I actually have to do all the business, and, you know what I mean? So,
because you're like independent, right?
yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts to what we do, and it can stress. Like, the argument is like, yeah, you need a manager, and like, you need people doing this so that you can just be the artist and let the art flow. Personally, I disagree. Well, for me personally, you know what I mean? I like being able to, taking a break from the art and handling the business keeps both of them fresh.
Yeah.
Then I go back to the art and I'm like, that's cool, you know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes if I was just making art, I kind of go crazy too. A lot of artists go crazy because it's just like you're living in your own this like imaginative. You're living in like an imaginative world.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, like that perspective on challenges, like that's a perspective shift that I'm trying to. I tweeted it out after I thought about it because I was like, that's really what it is. It's like, what if I just wasn't affected by it? Like when a challenge arose, I didn't get unhappy about it.
Right. It's like stress isn't factual. It's like the meaning we give all the facts.
Yeah.
So it's literally the meaning, like something can
100%.
spill on you and you can just be triggered.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, what's the problem? Oh, you know this, X, Y, Z. Or if you get mad going and missing the gym or whatever, and you can just be so stressed out. But ultimately, it's just like, what meaning am I giving this? And number one, it's like, you know, what decisions have I made up until this point to make it like it's gonna be all good?
Yeah.
Here's how I'll pivot. Here's how I'll adapt. Here's how.
I mean, dude, and don't get me wrong.
Flow.
Like, there's terrible things that can happen for no reason.
For sure.
You go outside, I'm just driving right down the road, and some guy fucking T-boned me. You know what I mean? Like, these are terrible happenstance.
Yeah.
These are happenstance things that could happen, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not saying that. Like, that's the point. It's just like, dude, you never know. This is life.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
This is life.
Because you'll think too, like think of a very, rich kid.
Yeah.
They don't get like the new iPhone, and they're just batshit out of their mind, pissed because they're stressed. They need it because they got to get here, they got to do this, they got to do that. Their friends, this party, blah blah blah. But you can have, and I'm sure you ran across them too. But you can have a teammate who came from a broken family where their siblings have died. And their siblings are no longer, or their mom or their dad's passed away, right? Like I've had teammates where both their parents are gone and they've been in different homes. And they just have a different perspective to where, you know, how is that mindset, like the stress that person's went through is way more than all the batshit stuff you're losing your mind over because you're just not getting X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But it is
that's
interesting.
facts, bro. That's a big part of why I am the way how I look at, like, some people look at me like, you're like a hippie, man. Like, with like some of my outlook on the sports stuff, and it's just like, dude, like, you 31 years old, you're like, I'm 31. Like, you played in the.
I'm about to die tomorrow.
Where are you from?
Bonne Terre, Missouri. Shout out Bonne Terre, Missouri.
You're from the fucking sticks.
Yeah.
And and then you fucking achieved your dream. You made it to the NFL. you weren't a fucking Hall of Famer. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what about just celebrating the actual facts?
Right.
You went on and had a very successful story. Like, you went on and fucking made the NFL.
Right.
And like, dude, to your same point, like, you know how many people would fucking die just to play one college football game in fucking Nebraska? That's like a big time program.
Right. Just run down on a kickoff.
Just one time. You know what I mean? But you're like, in your perspective, in your world, and like, yeah, like from the athlete side, to be like, oh, that's a complacent way of looking at things. It's just not. It's like you put your fucking all into it. You put your entire being into it. You know that. So that's how you have closure on it.
Right.
It's like, dude, I fucking squeezed the shit out of my arm. Like, I
Right.
got all the juice out of this.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And here I'm gonna channel it into something else, which you are. You know, and I think that's why it's going to work. Because all that shit, all the stress and the putting your body and your mind and all your energy into the game of football positions you to be in a where you are now, and you can actually leverage that.
Right.
You have that lineage where it makes sense, and you can do it. You have this relationship with Taylor, you know what I mean? You have a good thing going on.
Yeah, there's definitely I definitely sit back and I'm like, yo, how in the fuck did I pull all this stuff off, man? Because it's like,
You have
when you
to
come
do
from
that.
a small town, you're never really taught to think much outside of it. Not that there's anything wrong with the small town stuff.
No.
Love small town. You learn,
Yeah.
it's where I came from.
Yeah, me too.
And it's, and like, being around all those people, it's like a small town. I don't want to like disrespect and say
No, it's
small
not.
thinking, because there's just no other idea to know how to think outside and to go
Yeah.
beyond and to be a scholarship kid
Yeah.
or like, go to a 4-year university. And I just think like, ultimately guys like that, like they don't belong on this certain stage.
Right.
And fortunately, like luckily, I had something in me that like listened and was a sponge to a lot of people that in my own, obviously, ego, you sit back and you're like, I want to be where this person's at. How can I soak in whatever knowledge I can
Right.
and put it into practice?
Right.
And you just think back on all of it and you're like, yo, how did I pull all of this stuff off and have, going on year 9, you're just like, you've doubled the playing career in the NFL, bro. And that's all I cared about doing as a young kid is playing in the NFL. But when you accomplish it all, like people that want to know about this and want to know this life, it's just the perspective of it all. It's just, that ain't who I am ultimately.
Yeah.
And not in a way to defend myself on thinking, oh no, you're an NFL player, but it's just like, you just sit back and you're like, I have so much more life to live. And I've been in the whole fishbowl for however many years I did it, to think, I spent 23 years of my life, because I got into the league at 23.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just, we'll say 23 years, obviously 1 through 7 or whatever, I wasn't thinking about it. But 23 years of my life to live out a career that only lasts 2.8 years, 3 years. And, a lot of my stuff too, being on my platform and creating that platform and having these conversations with guys, you want other players and athletes, especially young, same level, whatever, to hear some of this stuff, because guys do struggle. Like people wonder like, how, when you have all this stuff, you got a supermodel, you played baseball, you played college baseball and was a rapper. Like, how do you have like transitional problems and issues? And it's like, yo, these dudes, just like everybody else who has problems and issues, these dudes I went 23 years of my life to play out a dream or a career that lasts 3 years. And then when it kind of gets taken away from you, that team and that logo doesn't make sure you go to your next job and you're happy as hell the next time.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to coach, that's great. You're not taking my job. Like, I'm glad you made it. Like, we got another draft class coming in.
Yeah.
And then you realize the carpet's pulled out from under you and the structure's gone. And if you don't spend time with yourself thinking and not planning, I guess, but thinking about what you might enjoy outside of the game, you're going to get caught in that trap of
100%.
like, what do I do now?
100%.
And that was part of, not that I struggled with it, but there was a fear setting in. Like, I'm on the back 9 of my career. Fortunately, I've played a few more years. I continue to get to say, this is probably my last year, but not a lot of guys get to do that. And then when it's gone, it's like, it's dangerous. And people are like, yo, how? You had this and that. It's like, it's all I've known my entire life.
Yeah. The interesting thing about what you said is, just looking at how, like, the sports fans. I mentioned it on the podcast a little bit. Just like the sports fans and the relationship to the players and that idea of like,
Right.
dude, I get up every day and work at 9 to 5 and I drive home.
Paid tickets, season tickets for 10 years.
And I do it again. I spend my hard-earned money, and you make 10 million. How are you gonna tell me you can't be happy and you're gonna complain? Shut up and play. You know, that type of shit.
Right.
It's hard for me. I mean, you know, I shouldn't even say it's hard for me because you know that's their truth, and that they haven't really gotten. You know, they're just not at a place where they can look at it like this.
Unfortunately, they haven't had a perspective shift.
Yeah, they haven't had a, you know, and some people go through their whole lives and have no idea about any of this stuff.
Right.
And I also feel very lucky that you know, my life's gone the way it's gone, where I have a lot of I have a lot of idle time. You know, like if I had to wake up and fucking feed the baby and fucking get to this job and a meeting and then and I'm coaching and then, like, you have no time for any of this. Like I've had a lot of I have time in the way my life has gone.
Yeah.
Where, so like, I'm not looking down on anyone else who like doesn't see it the way I see it, you know, at all. It's
Right.
not even, like they expect me to chirp them back. Like, you know, like, yo, I'm like, man, this is just how I see it, you know, like but I also have had this life where I spend a lot of time with myself. You know what I mean? I don't have a regimen. I don't have somewhere I gotta be, you know? So it's an exploratory, you know, vibe that I'm on and that I love, and I just try to feed it, you know?
Yeah.
But back to the point, it's just like the way I look at it is like, we have somebody, I forget who said this, they put it really, I'm gonna butcher it, but it was just like, you know, like behind the set of eyes, our eyeballs are actually a part of our brain. It's the only part of our brain that's showing, that's touching air, right? So like, from my perspective, we're sitting in the same room. We're seeing something totally different.
Right.
And like, in our world, in our universe, everything you've seen in your entire journey to get to where you are, or, you know, from my journey to get to where I was in that house and unhappy with money and a model girlfriend and all the things I thought was what made you happy and cool. Mm-hmm. And if people could, like, I understand it now. That's why, like, my outlook on the kind of whole thing, like a lot of this stuff, it's like a blanket outlook. I don't judge anyone else anymore at all, because I don't know what the fuck they're thinking.
Right.
I don't know what they saw. I don't know what they've been through, and maybe they haven't even been through anything, but their brain's wired in a certain way. You know what I mean? And they don't even know how to handle that. And like, maybe there is no answer for it. You know what I mean? These are all real reality. Like, these are all real things that I don't know. You know what I mean? You never know. So like,
yeah, you never know.
it just keeps coming up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that was so like, for the people, the sports fans especially, like trying to like, it's a one-player game, man. Like, this is our universe. The same way you have your problems in your world and the things that irk you and the things that make you sad or feel unfulfilled. Like, it's just a different set of problems. Like, but it's the same thing. Like, we're all kind of experiencing a different version of the same thing. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that, because too, like, we can, you know, fire back at fans or be like, you know, what do you do for a living? Blah 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 blah. It's not worth it, and also, like, again, you just don't know what that person's going through either, because you look at it and it's like the whole awareness thing. Like, man, they must be, if they're projecting like this, like, who knows what's going on? Like, that's all these people. That's all those people.
Can you
have.
remember the last time you went on the internet and you saw something you didn't like and you're like, I gotta send this guy a message and tell him he sucks?
Oh, no.
Have you ever been like, right under a comment like, this sucks, dude?
No.
What are you doing?
And that's wild to think about too. Like
I've never had that thought once in my life. But think about how many we'll get, or how many Johnny will get in a day.
Right.
I've had this conversation with Johnny. I was like, dude, think about how low you've been and all the things, the hard times and dark places. You've never once, ever once thought to go out of your way. Yes, there's moments and lapses where I'll still like sometimes write people back like, fuck you, if I'm drunk or something. Then like I'll literally like go back the next day and be like, yo, sending you love. just like brushing dirt over my mistake. But dude, like, you know, not to say that doesn't happen when we're challenged, but I'm saying like, I've never once, I don't have that bone in my body. And I look at that, the perspective shift on that is I look at that and I have compassion for them that they even have that in their body, that they wanna go out and, like, if I see something I don't like, I might be to my boy and be like, yo, this shit's whack. I'm not gonna tell the guy. I'm not gonna try to hurt the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so you have to have like a lot of hurt inside you to want to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So instead of, you know, the way I look at it, I was like, yo, I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for you that you even take the time out of your day to do that. You know what I mean? Like it says a lot about.
That's interesting too. I've never thought about like myself. Like, have you ever scrolled and been like, yeah, I'm gonna write some shit?
I literally have to personally message him and I hope he opens it.
Yeah.
Say, you suck.
Yeah.
Like what do you have to have in you that, like outside of like, just like sports bettors like lost a bunch of money and the guy misses a free throw, like you can understand at least like the sentiments of that where they're like, fuck, I just lost a bunch of money. Like still, that's wrong, the basis of it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like, there's just these people all day that like, they're so unhappy with their reality that they have to like, you know what I mean? They have to go and like, basically anything they don't like at all, they have to go naysay it.
Right.
And putting all their energy into shit they don't like. They don't understand that. If you put in all your energy on shit you don't like, you're just gonna get more of it.
Yeah, it's crazy too because you ultimately never meet any of these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like they're not even like, but they are, but it's almost like they're not even there, like.
Think about it too, like we'll never actually come across those people. No. Like we might walk around them all the time.
And if they were, they would, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that you would never, you never know.
You never know.
Hey, you never
know. The guy right next to you could be that guy.
That is interesting too.
Interesting.
I've never thought about that. I've never thought about like my own. Like if I saw something of yours, I'm like, and I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Like where I'm at, it's like, hey man, I think your shit's garbage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is.
But even if you did, like even if you're like, oh, like another like that step to take to like make
right, like what's going on?
You got to tell them that it's garbage. Is you know, for those people, they just haven't arrived at a place where they can look at themselves, any self-awareness, and just be like, what is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like where's that coming from? Like what baggage is that coming from?
Yeah, and like how,
ultimately
there's no way this is a positive thing for me to be doing. You know what I mean? But that's the way of the world. You know, I'm like left to this shit. I kind of like even politics and sport. I just kind of like I just try to keep it positive, super positive. People like kind of like think I'm bullshitting half the time. I think, you know, like they're like, yeah, are you like?
Oh my man, you just said like, hey, we got two eyeballs. That's the only part of our brain that's touching the hair. Hey, what the fuck is Mike talking
like, damn,
about?
what's Mike on over there? Drinking Bud Light, talking about.
He's like, you know, eyeballs are our brains, man. It's the only part of our brain that touches the air. So I'm like, hey, what the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah, shit. I haven't even taken any mushrooms today.
Yeah.
not yet. Wait till you see that episode.
Yeah. But it's all like everything we talk about too. Like it's like the beautiful thing in all of it is there's no finish line in it all. There's no arrival in it all. Like you talked about, you go on the bender. We all go through different stuff to where you kind of like step back and you're like, oh, because you're never the same person.
Yeah.
You guys were saying on the pod, you're not your last thought. You're not this, that. Like, in the book, Self-Awareness, the cells in your body, you don't have the same cell. Every cell regenerates after 7 years. You're not the same human being.
Yo, dude.
After 7 years.
Like studying, I got into the brain a lot. Like with the spirituality shit, there's a lot of like brain stuff. Like when you talk about when I really started looking into manifesting and like what that was, and I was like, why is this? I knew it. Like I knew there was truth to it, but the programming in me was like, that's bullshit, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like just the small town where I'm from, like the Northeast. Like what do you mean your thoughts become reality? Like. Oh, so if you just write it down, then it's gonna happen? Like no,
like, what kind of Gandhi bullshit is this?
It's not what we're saying. You know what I mean? It's what it does to you. It's what those daily intentions and those daily thoughts and taking that action to write those and taking that action to sit and meditate and do the breath work and I manifest and visualize things. It's what it does to your actions.
Right.
When you do that for a while, watch what happens to your actions. You know what I mean? And that's like, people like, you know, that's because they haven't done it. You know what I mean? And they want to naysay it, but like, that's really what happens. Your brain, the way your brain, like I got into how the brain, the function of it. Like I got into it pretty heavily. And it's really fucking interesting, man. It's
and just hormonally too, like the chemicals in your body, like especially when you're nasal breathing, you're doing a lot of different things.
Oh yeah.
like what it just does to your energy, like just your vibes just elevate.
Have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? I'm gonna send you some shit.
I've read The Oxygen Advantage.
Okay.
And then I've listened to the Joe Rogan pod,
Yeah.
where he has on the author that has wrote Breathe.
Yeah.
Or just Breathe or something.
Dispenza's not even a breathing guy. I mean, he that's part of what he talks about. But he's like he was a neurosurgeon, neurologist, and became a spiritual leader. But it's the undertone is science, is the actual science of the brain.
Yeah.
That's the undertone. So he's like proving it with data, and he does like all these CAT scan, like crazy, tons of scans, and he'll show you what's happening when if you meditated for 20 days. He'll like it's really cool. I've watched a bunch of his shit. I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, bro, I sleep with my mouth taped shut.
You do?
Yeah.
You're
just to
mouth
get that
open
nasal
guy?
breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just you start when you're like, you talk about bringing awareness to your breath, like just driving or anything else. You realize how short your breaths are, and a lot of them are through your mouth.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. Which is horseshit.
You're right, and reading all of like the literature on the breath and nasal breathing and things like that, jaw structure.
Yeah.
It's just super interesting, especially in sport and everything else, but just health overall. Like tricking your brain. This is training stuff, but tricking your brain into thinking you're in elevation. Like just doing a lot of different shit.
Yeah.
'Cause there's people I follow. Do you know who Brian Peters is?
Yeah.
The Mind Strong Project? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because you were doing cold water immersion.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's tapped in at all any of that. Because all that shit is obviously performance stuff, but just your mental well-being, it's crazy.
Taking care, like, I could talk about this shit forever.
Bro, same, man.
Like
I love this shit,
taking
bro.
care, yeah, like, and like, talk about getting your rocks off. Like, I knew when I never knew any of this shit. And then, when I went to school, like, I was good at school. I went to Duke, graduated with honors at Duke. Like, I didn't like learning. I didn't like any of the shit I was learning. But this shit, I stepped away from learning at all. And even when I was learning, I was just fucking memorizing it so I almost looked at it like a sport. Like, I gotta get good grades,
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to learn really the right way.
Right.
And I hear this shit, I'm just like, just that, that feeling, I'm drawn to it, so I just walk towards it.
And you see it actually happen.
And then, yeah, exactly.
You
Then
see it
I had the
happen.
validation. I had the validation right away, though, the way it made me feel when I read it.
Right.
You read something and it moves you. What does that say? It means you needed to hear it.
Yeah, you need to gravitate towards it.
Yeah, you needed to hear that shit.
And it brings you all the way into that, what you guys like to say is that one-player game.
Yeah.
You realize it's that, and then...
Dude, it's a fucking... Being a human, it can be lonely, man. Because it is a one-player game. You could be lonely in a room full of people. You know what I mean? So it's like, even just knowing that. Like, it's even you could have a wife and kids and like still be like, fuck, just feel lonely sometimes. It's just part of it,
Yeah.
This is,
It's a one-player game.
You got you,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, having partners and homies that, like, I lean on my homies, having their energy around, having good energy, good people around. Seems like you and Taylor are very close, right? You guys,
Yeah.
How'd you meet him? Teammate?
Just being a teammate on the Titans, and we actually, it's funny, it was myself and Mike Campanaro, and we were kind of like new free agents on the team, so we kind of ate breakfast together and stuff. But Taylor came over and was doing like, eating breakfast with us and everything. We actually bonded over like a Joe Rogan podcast, and we were talking about Ben Greenfield, some, sauna, heat, cold, it was, just immersion, all that kind of stuff. And then Taylor and I, we all just kind of bonded over that stuff and got to know each other. Like Taylor, like he's very, you become a person of his very fast. He's very like he married his wife. He married her in 5 weeks. Like I felt like I was like his, like we had to be best friends in like, a month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's very much like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that's how our relationship's always been, just, the way it is. Everybody's able to see it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that's my dude, man. And it's always fun too, because he's obviously a different player than I am in the league. You know what I mean? He's
that's
like
that's a cool dynamic.
He's a franchise player and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like his main thing's his main thing. But we've always had a good balance with eeach other. Everything like that, like love his family, all that stuff.
What do you think it'd be like if I had him and I started giving him some spiritual talks?
He's we always have interesting conversations. Like he said the interesting thing, like with Johnny.
I
And
talked about him a bit on the last one because I thought I saw something really cool. I didn't want to cut you off.
yeah. But yeah, even when he says like, "Oh, you don't have any regrets," and he's like, interesting. Like, there's just he's in like he wants to be the best left tackle, which is great. Like, do your
Yeah.
do
Absolutely.
your
It's
thing,
his-
chase greatness. Like if that's
Exactly.
you feel like that's what's inside of you and that's what you love to do and you got to go after it.
Exactly.
Like do your thing. It's just you want to just equip, I guess, or have those perspective that if things like that don't happen, it doesn't
It
derail
seems
your
like
mental.
I kind of knew that going in. Like he's not really on that wave. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah, it comes for people in different parts of their life. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say that. But
Yeah.
what I will say is, I mean, mind you, I was fucking banged up on the bus. I was wearing it. But I did feel I felt like his guard got let down in a sense when Johnny started. Johnny would talked about depression. Like he took his hat off. He's like depression's a real thing. Like
Yeah.
I felt that. I felt that either he has experienced it or someone he knows has experienced it. And I think he's also in an interesting part in his life because he's injured. And as an athlete, like
You were talking about it 20 months.
I lived
Dark.
that. I lived it. Like I lived it when you start questioning. And I was 21. But like even how old is he?
He's 29.
29. So once you're not Superman anymore, which just one injury will do that. You're just like, whoa, like
No question.
it could, whoa, you know what I mean? And then, he's playing the NFL. Like he's already kind of that's a fucking short. That's a short run for the what is it like 3 years?
The average is 3 years. Rounded up to 3
crazy.
years, 2.8.
That's nuts.
Nuts, bro.
So he's already played how many seasons?
He's going into year 8.
You know what I mean? He's already doubled that.
Right.
More than doubled that. So that's crazy. And then he has that injury. He's, it's just gonna be there's gonna be a phase where he's gonna have to look it in the eye where it's just like you're not a football player anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Everybody faces it.
Yeah, and
whether it's right after high school, right after
it comes
college.
for everybody at some point. You know what I mean?
Everyone retires.
Yeah, everyone retires.
Everyone retires.
And I think then that's when it will. But I got that vibe that he's already like there's a part of deep down internally like there's already not even arrivals there, but he's just like you mentioned reading one of the books like what was this one of those. He mentioned like a book about the ego that he had read.
Ego is the enemy.
Ego is the enemy, which was great too. I think that's a great thing, and I think again to be what he is like to be a premier fucking guy. He's in the trenches. Like he's literally like every second he's got a guy in his face. He's just got to fucking
And not even a
he's
guy
gotta
in his
fucking
face.
push him and fucking all like you know
Yeah.
what that does to you, bro?
The best guy, too. Like, I'm talking Miles
the best,
Garrett.
the biggest
Von
gangster,
Miller.
the biggest motherfuckers.
Yeah.
You know what that does to you? You know what I mean? Like it makes you so fucking. You just gotta be like, to be that great.
Right.
You know what I mean? To be that good at what he does. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I actually want to have him on and talk. I mean, it won't. I have some guys aren't even spiritual. We don't even talk about this shit. I just knew. I didn't even know where.
Oh,
I
I know he wants to
didn't even
come
know
on.
where this was gonna go.
Yeah.
It went there.
I know he wants to come on. I was at his pool earlier, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to Mike's to do the pod. He's like, oh, I'm a little jealous of that.
Yeah, that's my guy. I fuck
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
him heavy.
no.
We've been texting and bullshitting for a while.
Yeah, he's like all of it happens, and not that it's like we sit here like, oh, this is the way, this is the
not
right
at
way, like
all.
on some Star Wars shit. This
Bro,
is
he's
the
a
way.
he's a rock star.
Yeah, like you know how it is. Like when you have the ability and you can be the best, there's like, you're just in it. Like you're just in it. Like
100%.
I wanted to me when I was finally getting my opportunities, I was like, oh, now everybody's finding out. Like the undrafted cat, the backup, all this stuff I finally made is starting for a
Success
couple
story.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm about to be Luke Kuechly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you have all of that.
Yeah.
It is like if you want that as an individual, it's a discipline. Like it is a grind.
Oh, yeah.
Like I listen to all McGregor stuff all the time, but you got to be so laser focused on it. He's like that, and he's also very aware that there's that mental side that he's been growing a lot in.
Yeah.
And just find like it's always finding that balance because you can't push anybody to do something. You hope to be an example, and whether or not it comes
Absolutely.
from me or anybody else around, like it's almost like, if you hear it from somebody else and that clicks,
Right.
You know, that's you kind of
Exactly.
just need stuff to naturally happen. 'Cause
Exactly.
you can't force an issue.
Who, if I were to have this conversation and then be like, oh, you're not spiritual, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that goes against everything we just said. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you actually said it perfectly. It's just like, it's your truth. Like, that's who he is. Like, he's right in the middle of his truth. Like, this is what he was here to do, and he's in this chapter in his life, and it's bang, bang, bang. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Block, 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 fucking run through a wall. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's what makes him great at what he does. And everyone, like, bro, maybe you never, maybe after he plays, he just goes on. Maybe you never really go down this path, and so be it. But all I'm saying is, it's what gets your rocks off. Walk towards
Right,
it.
and if he has that perspective, if he has a perspective shift without any of that stuff,
Yeah.
you know, you just see the energy with people.
He has kids and shit too, right?
Oh yeah, he's got 2 kids.
2 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids, wife. You know,
Yeah.
he's
Where's he at? Is he out in like Green Hills or
yeah, he's out in Forest Hills.
Forest Hills?
Yeah, he's out
That's
in
where
Forest
I'm
Hills.
probably gonna go if we live
It's a
here.
good spot. That's
it's
a
nice
good, that's
out
the
there.
good area. Yeah.
This place fucks.
Oh yeah, dude, Nashville's all time.
All right, how long have you been here?
I've been here since 18. So I had got here, I was in an Airbnb, and then I bought a spot right after that season. Because I like to buy a place wherever I'm at, and then, you know, eventually, you know, whether I rent it out, sell it, whatever.
Yeah.
But I like to do the whole real estate thing.
Yeah.
And got a spot here. I've been in that for a few years, and now we're looking to, you know,
gonna
upgrade
upgrade?
a little bit.
Boys moving up, baby.
Yeah, boys moving up.
Hell yeah. Well,
It's been fun, man. I've had a blast.
you guys got a good thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. And like, that's what it's about. Are you having fun?
Oh, I'm having a blast.
You
bro.
look like it. It seems like
Yeah.
it. The energy, you know, that's what it's about, man.
The best part too is like, and I'm sure you were the same way. You find something outside of what you were so wrapped up in, and not that I hate or I regret or think I was wrong for thinking that way. Like it's just that
No,
whole
not at all.
self-compassion
Yeah.
of like, oh man, I was in it like that. Like
Yeah.
I was about that life.
Hell yeah.
And I know I can still be about that life, but I understand. It's like you start to understand what's
Yeah.
outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, reason like, you know, reason I'm like kind of at the place I'm at, like, dude, I've lived 2 different lives. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
But like,
Isn't that nuts?
I did that for 20, you know, and it was just baseball and like just that, like the exact same framework and mindset as you, I would imagine, very similar, you know?
Right.
And then I did this for so long, and like then I realized how much fun I'm having, how this feels like my passion, this feels like what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm just like, wow, imagine.
And it's
it.
great though.
Imagine if I didn't get hurt, you know, I wouldn't even have done any of this. And like when I said the shit, like I wouldn't,
Right.
I wouldn't trade seats with those $100 million baseball guys.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why? You know, what do you mean? Like, that's what I mean. Like I did that side, but I actually got to live a whole other passion. And you're kind of, I'm seeing an alignment. That's why I brought it up. Like the alignment of like what you have going on. And like, bro, in 10 years from now, you might just be like one of the bigger sports journalists.
Yeah.
By
Who
accident.
knows, man?
Because,
right.
dude,
Right. By accident.
Not because you're trying, but
Right.
like you'd just be like, yo, I love getting up and going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to fucking run down the field and throw my body into somebody and try to make a tackle for fucking 3 seconds of hoorahs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, for the guys back home
Right.
who don't
right,
give a
right,
shit
right.
anyway. They're in
Right.
their own world. You
It's
know?
already nuts when people are just like, oh, the boy. And you're just like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, damn, people don't even see me as a football player anymore.
Yeah,
which
bro.
is fun because
That's
obviously
dope, though. That's fucking dope.
Right.
Like, reinventing yourself, that's the shit.
Yeah.
When you want to stay the same, that's staying the same is going backwards, bro. Like, you got to reinvent yourself constantly.
And when you can't stay the same and then you just regret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is just sucks for people, man. I hate when people live, like the whole, with the Johnny episode.
Yeah.
I had a couple people reach out and they're like, do you believe everything he was saying? It's like, I felt, here's how I felt talking
Yeah.
to him. I felt like he has all this stuff, right? Perspective, awareness, extreme ownership. It's not up to me to know
Yeah.
if that's how he's feeling or not. Or
Yeah.
if it's believed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just know because I'm
Yeah,
around.
right,
I'm
right.
around. I'm like he lived in my house in Scottsdale and I was just like, this guy has it.
Right.
It's day in and day out, like positivity and like it's inspiring for me because like, bro, I'm not always, you know, like me. This is like my therapy.
Right.
Like me talking through shit and articulating and getting to, like it helps verify things for me. You know what I mean? Like it's not coming from a place of like, you know, there's times where I feel like Johnny's at a higher level than I am. Johnny's very, very tapped in.
right.
He has like a lot.
And again, when you get caught up in that, we're just comparing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But like, you know, like so many people hit me up to get like to chirp about Johnny. Like, why are you chilling with Johnny, bro? Like, I'm like, I don't even respond to him. But my point is like, at what point do we just like, really, like, if you really want freedom in your life, you just live yours, bro. Like, if you really, that's truly how you could just be like,
that is it.
You can have freedom, bro, if you just like live yours and you work on your shit and you're gonna have your battles and your ups and downs, you know, but so many people are wasting their energy wondering, oh, do you believe everything that he said? Why do you fucking care?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
listen to the people you're like, oh, they have an energy about them, or they said a few things that like, you know, I'm fucking with. Like, let me get a little bit more of that in my life. How do I put that into practice?
Yeah.
Then you hear something else. You know what I mean? It's not like we're still on the same people we were on when we first started learning about the mental stuff.
Right.
You start finding new perspectives, talking with new people.
We're different people after this conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I look at it all the time. Like, it's like new data. It's just like new experiences and shit. That's how I look at people will hit me and be like, yo, how are you spiritual and you think you're on this vibe and then you go party for, like, I'll have this conversation and I'm gonna go fucking drink 10 beers.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
Right.
I got my fucking pants on so I can go immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
John changed mid.
FaceTime Dan and beers right after this.
He changed mid podcast so that we could go out immediately.
He's like, oh, we need to get this shit up.
We
gotta go find out if Dana Beers is back.
He's pacing around waiting for me to finish,
Yeah.
waiting for me to wrap this up. I know, John.
We gotta see if Dana Beers is back.
Yeah.
That's what we gotta do.
FaceTime right now. I'll FaceTime. He's been texting.
See what his ass is doing. I was texting him and Marty.
Yeah, they're ready.
Have you met Marty?
Yeah. We're gonna
they're at 10.
We're gonna go run up on their ass. Pause.
No pause, man. What are you doing? Hey, where are y'all at 10 Roof? All right, hey. I'm with Mike.
Hey, we're coming in hot.
Hey, we're coming in hot. We're gonna see if Dana Beers is back, dude.
Dana Beers is back. These guys are the best.
They're
the best.
Funny.
Man, this has been a fucking great conversation. Let's do it again.
Oh yeah,
when
bro,
I'm back.
This is awesome. This is all time.
We didn't like this.
I love this shit. Even fucking John can join us next time.
Yeah, you missed the One Tree Hill reference. First time
You
ever.
did, man.
The one time
You a
I
One
needed
Tree Hill
it.
guy? I was like, we all grow up. We're in high school. We like live all of our One Tree Hill lives. Like you're thinking like, who's the hottest girl? Like, man, so and so got with her.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's not
You guys
for
been
me.
preaching One Tree Hill for fucking
Yeah,
years.
bro. And you always think you're gonna come back and relive it somehow.
Yeah.
But you just never, you know. You're just like, damn, that part of life's over.
We'll end on this though. This is a thought. I actually said this last night. Fucked up to someone. They're like, oh, that's a good point. Just like all this shit that we're talking about, and like a lot of the anxiety, or you know, we're very right now, like our society, big problems like depression, anxiety, young kids,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
And the perspective shift on this. This whole thing's about perspective shift. The perspective shift on that, and like just like like a lot of the things that we internally like kind of patronize ourselves, or we're judging, and a lot of the things, the illusions that we're creating in our head, the fear-based illusions. No one. Let me promise you this, because and this is related to the Johnny thing too. Unless you're a Johnny Manziel, you've been at that tier where you're fucking really like a mainstream name for a while, right?
Right.
You could exclude those people out of this point, but that's a very, very tiny percentage of people. Like I'm not even saying I'm even there. Like that's the 0.001. Like guys who have had that many eyeballs on them, where you can make the argument against what I'm about to say. No one gives a fuck what you're doing in your life. No one. Like your wife, your parents, they want you to be, they're the ones, like your family and your immediate friends, like the really close friends, like they want you to be happy and healthy. Like your wife doesn't want you to go fuck a girl at the bar.
Right.
She wants you to get home safe. Your parents when they talk to you, like, oh, Will looks good, he seems happy, and
Yeah.
That's all they care about. No one at home's like, yo, man, Will didn't get picked up. You know, like
let's all go fucking. Let's,
or like, yo, like if like yes, they'd be happy if you went on and did some great shit, and they're probably happy for the shit you're doing. Great, but like the bigger point is like, and even we're not great examples because we're doing shit in the public space and we have public followers.
right. Well, it's easy for
But
you
I'm
to say,
talking
yeah.
just general public, gen pop, right? Everyone's like, you can look on Instagram or anywhere, be like, yo, my haters, like, yo, I'm just gonna prove everyone wrong. Like, and they use it in a proper way. A lot of them are using it as fuel, determination. A lot of the shit, you know, a lot of the shit sounded like in your journey, like you wanted to prove it to yourself, but you wanted to have that storied life. You wanted to write your story the right way and like go back home and be like, yo, that was the guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
bro, everyone, like the shit we talked about in the brain and how everyone's, you know, the eyeballs, everyone's like seeing their own thing. Everyone's going through this, their own version of it. They're fucking worried about their shit.
Right. Everybody. Literally everybody.
And like, yeah, it might be a second or a conversation over drinks or something like where it comes up, but they don't fucking living and dying. They don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not. It could come off like that sounds like that's a positive thing I'm saying. That's freedom. Like, no one cares.
When you realize how many people actually
Got a tattoo
think
right here.
about you.
It's a skeleton holding up a sign that says, "Who cares?" Because when you fucking die, none of this shit fucking. Oh man, Will Compton played 9 years. No one gives a fuck when you die.
No one cares, bro. It's nuts to me too because
No one gives a shit, bro.
Even in college, when you saw the old alumni coming around, you wouldn't know who it was. They could have been, you know, maybe the rock stars you might understand, but like dudes who had like roles, pivotal roles. It's like, all right, man, you lived your moment. Like, go on. Like, no one cares.
It just don't matter. Like people talk about legacy too. Like I'm not a legacy guy.
I know.
There's so much ego in the legacy.
Right.
Yo, when I die, like, what are they gonna say? No one gives a fuck, bro. Everyone's living their lives. Everyone's trying to figure it out.
I know, man. I go back and forth on the legacy stuff because I was like,
I know, I get it.
yeah.
I get
I'm
it.
not saying that to like bring in and be like, oh, I'm on the other side of it. I'm just talking like just in general. Like I do feel that perspective for sure.
I get it. I get the legacy thing. I do. I just
Because ultimately,
I don't align with it. I think it's bullshit.
Right, like ultimately, what is it like?
So what is it? When you die, like the legacy. Here's what I get with the legacy thing. You know, you do the right thing so that your kids and your family. That argument makes sense to me because these are your loved ones, and you want to leave them something to be proud of. Cool, like.
I guess that's a version of it.
That's the only version that makes sense to me. That's the only one that doesn't feel like it's ego-driven. The rest of the legacy talk, oh man, like, or another side of it is like, you did a bunch of shit that positively impacted a lot of people, and that vibration goes out to the world, and you made a great impact on people, which I get that too. So maybe I'm not completely against the legacy idea, but for the most part, when I hear people talk about legacy, I'm like, dude, you think it's that important while you're doing that? You're gonna care 20 years after you're dead?
Yeah, it's more so probably, I guess, the care factor in it.
Yeah.
The ego part of,
what do you mean?
Of caring about the I'm saying like, you care so much about what legacy you might leave.
Like, what does legacy mean to you? Because I could tell that it's been.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true too. Because you can think of like the Martin Luther Kings. You can think of these people who have a legacy.
Yeah.
But they might not be sitting there so caught up in like, I need to leave a legacy. Like those people.
I bet
more
they
like,
weren't, and that's why they have it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Because think about all the books we read. Like, we don't actually know those people, but they've left a legacy on us. It's like
that's valid. Like what I just said. Like if there's tons of people that you did amazing shit and you impacted them positively, so that that's a great thing. And that's what I try to do that all the time. Like with most of my actions, I'm trying to make people feel good. You know, with these conversations. These aren't the cool conversations to have. These aren't the clickbait conversations. Like, let's go listen to Mike and Will Compton talk about fucking spirituality. You know what I mean? Like,
true, but
I think it's super.
They leave
I think
a good
it's super
impact.
helpful. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
where I see the impact. And to me, that's what I want to talk about anyway. But I know a big part of why I like talking about it and doing this, using this platform, is because I get all these messages from real people saying like, man, you really helped me start thinking about things a little differently. I've had some better days and shit, which. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So there's legacy in that. You know?
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm trying to figure out as we're talking about like how I'm compartmentalizing, I guess separating it. Maybe you don't. Because yeah, you're right. I mean, this whole platform is
It's impact.
And when you impact people, like
It's
that's
impact.
part of what your legacy
Positive
is.
impact is what it's all about. When I talk about legacy, I'm talking about the people like,
You're probably talking more like to the ego.
I need to
of
go
it.
do all this shit. I need to go achieve, do. Look at these accolades. Look at this shit on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to remember my name.
Yeah.
What
Because
is-
I
what is
can feel that.
What is that really going to do, though? You know what I mean? What does that really matter in the long run to anybody? You know what I mean? Like, they're plaques on the wall, you know?
Yeah. It's
mo-
like,
Those
Bob
songs.
Bob Marley.
Yeah, those songs, like, if they can put those songs on and it raises people's mood and makes them have better days, that's dope. That's a
Right.
legacy, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're circling around the same thing.
I guess we're coming back to legacy a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe
All right, you know what? No,
go make a
fuck
legacy.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Broadway and continue our legacy.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hey, you never know.
Hey, cheers, buddy. Great talk.
This was awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
You ready?
I told him you never know. You never, ever.